Hey guys, what's up? Happy Friday. I'm Kimmy Yam, Asian Voices editor at HuffPost, and I am so stoked to be chatting with actor Randall Park in a bit. Randall plays dad Louis Huang in Fresh Off the Boat, which by now we all know is the first sitcom focused on an Asian American family in almost about 2 decades. In its four seasons, the show has dealt with a range of issues from citizenship to Asian polite fights. While the show was on the bubble for its 5th season, fans in the Asian American community and beyond rallied around the sitcom, and luckily we'll look forward to the premiere on October 5th. It's also the first Asian American show to reach syndication. So before we bring in Randall, let's check out some clips from the show. Everybody, please welcome Randall Park.
Hey! What's up, everybody?
Randall, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I'd like you to know that I checked up on the status of the once defunct Randall Park Mall, which is now an Amazon fulfillment center.
That's what I heard.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
I was like, I'm doing research for this interview. I must figure out what happened to that mall.
Yeah, it's no longer, unfortunately.
So the show premiered in 2015, and here we are several seasons later, and the cast has stayed largely the same.
Yeah.
And so you've seen people grow up on the show.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of crazy. Those kids, right?
Those kids, it wasn't in that clip, but this kid right here is like 7 feet tall now. He's like Kareem's height. It's like crazy.
So what's it like having a sitcom family? Is it like kind of having a regular family?
Well, I mean, in some ways, in that, you see these kids grow and you become attached to them and you worry about them and although I don't have to worry about these kids too much because they really have great parents and they seem to be doing just fine. But yeah, you fall in love with your TV family, kind of like you do your regular family. Yeah.
Oh yeah. On the last season, there was a storyline done entirely in Chinese.
Yeah.
That was definitely, at least for me, that was a trip to see because I've never seen, so much dialogue done in Chinese on a mainstream sitcom TV show.
Yeah.
But I imagine that was really difficult for you as well because you do not speak Chinese.
Was my Chinese bad?
No, I thought it was great.
Was it really?
I thought it was really good.
Well, one of the storylines was entirely in Chinese, and I had one line in Chinese in that episode.
I could tell you were like really, really focusing on
you
your
could
tones.
see the bead of sweat, like. Yeah, it was it was really important for me to get that right, just for the part. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Oh yeah.
But every season that I'll find myself with maybe 1 or 2 lines of Chinese, and I work. We have a Chinese coach on set to teach us, the way to say it properly, and I work really hard just to get that right.
Any slang? Have you picked up any slang yet?
Gosh, I'm sure I have. I just can't remember at the moment. But yeah.
So over the years, the show has dealt with kind of a wide range of issues. I know last time I interviewed you, you actually mentioned that the citizenship episode was done on election night, which is kind of crazy.
Yes, yeah, we were shooting that. We were shooting the scene when Jessica gets sworn in as an American citizen on election night, and we were shooting while the election, while the numbers were coming out.
Right.
And we were shooting in the lobby of one of the buildings at Fox, and there were all these TVs in the lobby with different news stations on. So every in between. In between setups, we just like come out and just watch, and it was just so surreal, to see this guy get elected, and then at the same time go in there and have this celebratory scene when Jessica becomes a U.S. citizen. It was really kind of surreal and a little bit heartbreaking.
Yeah. I mean, the show has dealt with, not only that, also, there's an LGBTQ storyline. So many of these issues, I mean, it's awesome to see it unfold on screen, but how has the response been to these episodes, particularly under this administration?
It's been great. It's been great, but I think, going into our 5th season now, we have our fan base. We have our kind of devoted following, and that devoted following is I'd say fairly more progressive in some ways, and so it seems like those types of episodes where we have a good positive message like that, they really resonate with our fans. Yeah.
Can we expect kind of other issues like this to come up in the next season?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's a kind of a testament to our writers' room. Our writers' room is very diverse with a lot of different perspectives, and so those perspectives always make their way into our scripts. Yeah.
So speaking of really dedicated fan bases, so the show was on the bubble for a bit, going into the 5th season, and then not only did it get renewed, it also it reached syndication.
Yeah.
And so was there anything you learned or that surprised you through this whole experience? Because I know you rallied really hard for that show to be renewed once again.
Gosh, I mean, it didn't surprise me that we had fans and vocal fans, but when you're on the bubble, you never know what to expect, and you don't want to get your hopes up too high, But I mean, it was definitely a great feeling once we did get picked up to series, and I think a lot of to our 5th season, and I think a lot of it really is a testament to the fans of the show, and also to the community, to the Asian American community, because I think it means a lot to a lot of the community, and because we're the only kind of show of its kind, an Asian American family on network TV right now. Really, in all of TV, there's not many shows like ours. To have that following be so committed to our show, it says a lot to the network.
Right.
Yeah.
In the show, there are a lot of these very humorous, very specific Asian American references, like the success perm. I don't know if you guys remember that. Success perm was amazing. I'm gonna get one myself.
I think that's pretty cross-cultural too, because I know Koreans have that too. I mean,
Exactly.
it's a thing.
That's
Sure.
what unites us, I think,
Yes.
across Asia. Success perms
and the bowl
shame.
cut.
And
Shame. That's right.
Bowl cut, success perms. We
Yes.
got it down, guys. And so which one was your favorite?
Of those
Yeah, to
kind of
shoot.
Asian American kind of
Yeah,
episodes.
to bring on screen.
Oh gosh. Well, I think the success perm one actually probably was my favorite one, because it was something. I mean, I rocked a success perm when I was like a little kid.
did?
Yeah, for a little bit. So it really resonated with me, and the importance of kind of putting on this air of success, and, justifying that big sacrifice that the parents made
Right.
coming to this country, by showing off that it paid off.
Yeah.
Even if it might not have paid off, but you could show it with your hair.
Right.
So yeah, that one definitely resonated with me.
Yeah, the physical manifestation of success.
Of success, yes.
So you've been in the business for a while, and you've played so many different characters. I think one of my personal favorites is Asian Jim from The Office. I don't know if you guys remember that one. I don't think I've ever laughed that hard at a scene, like ever in my life. But do you feel that the way Asian American actors are cast nowadays is different from when you started? Or when you go into castings, is the experience really different?
Well, when I first started acting ages ago, it was definitely different than it is now, in that, there were less roles, and the roles that you would go out for, every role would, if not be if they weren't stereotypical, they were kind of somewhat connected to some stereotype in some way, or or it would allude to some sort of stereotype in some way. So you'd have to kind of go into that role trying to, if you're conscious of it, just like, oh, how do I really try to humanize this? How do I bring something more real to this character? Whereas now I feel like just the general consciousness of those types of things are more prevalent in the industry, and that's reflected in the roles that we're seeing.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a huge summer for Asian Americans on the big screen. So, right, we've had Crazy Rich Asians, and then To All the Boys I've Loved. But you've also mentioned recently that there hasn't been as much progress on TV. So do you feel that because, Hollywood has kind of brushed over these issues in diversity on the small screen because of these successes we're seeing, in movies?
Well, I think there has been some movement on TV and some success, but I think just in the grand scheme of things, there's just so many shows now.
Right.
There's just so many outlets, so many networks, that when you really crunch the numbers, I don't know if much has changed TV-wise, at least in terms of Asian American, portrayals. But I do think that. I do think that this wave of hopefully it's not just a wave, but hopefully it's like a change, a permanent change. But these movies are, I think they're helping. I think it's all moving forward, and hopefully it's not just a wave.
Yeah. I mean, time and time again, we've kind of seen research show that diverse casts are more profitable.
Yeah.
But why do you think that, not more progress has happened on the small screen, even though these reports consistently show?
Gosh, I think so many reasons. I think one of them being that there aren't enough kind of people in decision-making positions who who want to prioritize that. I think that there needs to be kind of more opportunities given to writers and creators. We need to create more creators, in our community, and I think that's happening now. I think the success of these movies and our show is influencing people to, I'm going to write about my family. I'm going to write about my my love life, my experience. So I think it is changing.
I mean, speaking of people behind the scenes, so what kind of stories about the Asian American experience would you like to see kind of brought out?
Well, for me, I would love to see more working class or lower class, because that exists in our community,
Right.
but it's not those stories aren't often told, There are a lot of communities within kind of the Asian Pacific Islander, umbrella that are predominantly more working class or lower class, and those stories haven't been told yet. So my hope is that, we kind of see the gamut of perspectives. Yeah.
And jumping briefly back to Fresh Off the Boat. So, there have been so many 90s throwback celebrities that come on the show. Connie Chung, Vanna White, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who we just saw. So who have you been like fangirling over, who you're like, oh my God, we have to bring them on the show?
From the 90s?
Yes, from the 90s.
Oh gosh. That's a good question. I mean, we've had a lot of like rappers on the show, and I'm always excited when we have like rappers on the show, because I grew up on that, I think it would be super cool to have, we had DMX on, if we had Jay-Z on the show, that would be crazy.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Like 90s era Jay-Z,
Okay.
That would be wild. That's never going to happen.
Okay, we're pushing for it right here on Build. And you have an upcoming movie with Ali Wong coming out.
Yeah,
A sitcom. Or not a sitcom, a rom-com.
A rom-com, yeah.
We're all dying to watch it. So what can you tell us about it?
Well, it's a rom-com. It's about these two childhood friends who grow up right next door to each other in San Francisco, and they're the best of friends until they lose their virginity to each other, and then they get in a huge fight, and then they don't talk to each other or see each other again for 15 years, and then 15 years later. She's a very successful celebrity chef, and he still lives at home with his dad, and he's a happily struggling musician, and their lives kind of come together.
Breaking that model minority myth, right there.
Yeah, it's
right
that working
there.
class thing that
Yes.
I mean, it made its way into our script, and it's basically about them rekindling their friendship amongst other things.
I mean, has it been, because I know you mentioned before that you went to college with Ali Wong.
Yeah, well, we both went to UCLA.
Yes.
We weren't there at the same. Well, I did a master's degree afterwards, so there might have been some overlap. But I'm way older than her. She'll be the first to point that out to you every time. But she ended up being in the theater company that I had co-founded when I was an undergraduate at UCLA. So that's kind of how we kind of connected.
Yeah, is it kind of crazy seeing both of you have this glow up?
Yeah, it's surreal. It's like amazing. But from that theater, it was an Asian American theater group at UCLA that we had co-founded, and a lot of people from that group they made their way into the industry and are thriving in the industry. So I'm really proud of that because we kind of founded this magical collective of actors and writers who found their passion during those college years, and one of the co-writers of the movie with Ali, it was Ali, me, and this guy named Mike Kalamko. He was also in that theater company. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's really cool. It's a source of pride for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for any Asian Americans who are thinking of going into the industry in some way?
Just don't listen to your parents. Just do not listen to them. No. I mean, partially that's true. Know that your parents often don't want you to pursue these things because they love you and they want what's best for you.
Right.
But you also, if you have this passion, and if it's a real passion that's burning in you, it's like you have to do it, or else you're gonna regret it, later in your life. So if you really feel passionate about something, then you kind of have to go for it. At least give it a shot.
I love that advice. Screw your parents, do your own thing.
No, I didn't.
It's awesome.
Yeah, screw your parents. Screw your parents. That's fine.
Thank you so much, Randall.
Thank you.
I
That
think
was
we're going to
fun.
go to some audience questions. We have one right
Sure.
over here.
Hi, Randall. One of my favorite videos of yours is the Wong Fu short Too Fast from a while back.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was wondering if you felt there's a difference in working with Asian American producers and directors like Wong Fu in comparison to people in Hollywood.
That's a good question, but I ultimately I don't think there's much of a difference. I think like those Wong Fu guys, I think they're just as talented, just as capable, and the stuff they make is just as professional, as anything in Hollywood, I think the only difference is that they, for many reasons, including the fact that they're Asian American, they kind of operate in their bubble. But I do think that those guys, especially deserve to have a bigger platform, and I know they're working at it, and I think that that'll be the case, or I hope it'll be the case.
Yeah. I loved your cameo on the Asian Bachelorette
Oh,
recently.
thank you.
That was great. Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still in touch with those guys, and that was funny because I was just hanging out with Daniel Day Kim. We were having dinner, and he was like,
Subtle flex.
"Hey, do you want to go do this this thing?" And I was like, "Oh, what?" He's like, "Oh, Wong Fu, they're shooting this thing." I was like, "Oh yeah, I know those guys. Let's do it." And then we just like showed up and shot it, and it was so fun.
I love that. We have another one.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for being here.
Of course.
This means so much. Being an Asian American and growing up in an Asian American family. And I was just thinking about like one of those specific moments. One of my favorite moments on the show was actually the Asian Glow episode. I
Yeah.
relate so hard to that.
Yeah.
Because it's like so embarrassing every time you go drinking.
I don't get that, by the way.
Oh, you're so lucky.
Yeah, it surpassed
You're so lucky.
me. Yeah.
But anyway, my question is just how you relate to your character and whether you have any, like, where you depart from your character or, like, where you relate more. Like, what characteristics do you...
Well,
I don't
you
know.
know, Louis on the show is this very fun-loving, super positive family guy. You know, he just loves his kids, loves his wife, and whereas the real me hates my kid, hates my wife. No. I mean, that's how I identify with Louis in a lot of ways. Just how much I adore and depend on my family, you know, for my own identity and well-being. I do think that I'm by nature not as like upbeat a person as Louis, you know, like he has this kind of go get 'em, you know, let's get out there and see the world attitude. I'm more of like a homebody. But I would say that playing him, especially for all these seasons, has rubbed off on me a lot. And I do find myself just like more of a positive person, you know, ever since playing him. And I think it's rubbed off on me in like real positive ways. Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome. I think we have time for one more question.
Hey, how are you?
Good, and you?
Good.
I want to bring it back to like the 90s throwback. I wanted to know what was like your life theme song in the 90s.
My life theme song in the 90s?
Yes.
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. In the 90s. I'm super old. So like in the 90s, I was like 50. So I'm thinking more like 1940s. I would say, I don't know. I go back to like Jay-Z. I was such a huge Jay-Z fan in that time. So I would say like, I mean, not that I lived what he was rapping about in his music, because I certainly didn't. But I definitely played a lot of his music during that era. Gosh, I can't think of one, but I would probably say like one of his songs, maybe. Yeah.
If Jay-Z doesn't come on the show at this point, I'm gonna be so
I
disappointed.
know. Come on, and bring Beyonce. It'll be like a great episode.
On the run, fresh off the boat,
Yes,
kind of
yes.
mishmash. I like
Yes,
that.
why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
I think that's all the time we have today, but thank you so much for
Thank
stopping
you.
by, Randall.
That was so fun.
yeah.
Thanks, Kimmy. Thank you.